Pizza.
Pizza.
Pizza?
Sandwich.
Pizza and sandwiches. Cool. So my name is Jordan, and that's my buddy Rick over there.
Hey.
And we are from AVP, so Alternative to Violence Program. And I kind of just wanted to share a little bit about my life and kind of just the choices that I made in the past. I grew up in a home without a father. My parents divorced when I was around 8 years old. And I grew up with a lot of hatred and resentment because of my father. He wasn't there for me as a child, as a boy. And, I grew up in a home where it was just very physical abuse, and emotionally and physically. So I had a lot of resentment toward my father, and I wanted to self-medicate, and I wanted to suppress my feelings that I was having toward my father. So I grew up with a lot of resentment, so I started to self-medicate even at an early age. I started experimenting with weed. There's too much movement in here, man. Sorry. All right. I started experimenting with weed at an early age. When I was in 6th grade, I started smoking weed. And then in 7th grade, I started drinking alcohol. What grade are you guys in right now? 7th grade. That's when I started to go downhill in my life. So that's what I started doing in middle school, and then in high school, I started experimenting with pain medications and started abusing that. I graduated high school out here in Monterey County, and when I got out of high school, I moved out with my girlfriend at that time, and we were only 19 years old when we moved out together, and she became pregnant. And so here I am, I'm trying to be this father. I'm having a brand new baby boy. I had no idea how to raise my son. My father wasn't there to show me how to raise a child. So I was trying to learn how to do things on my own. So during this time of my life, I'm trying to work 3 jobs just to support my family. Rent out here is just so very high, and so you had to work multiple jobs just to put food on the table. And so, here I am, I'm trying to be this family man, and trying to learn how to do things on my own. And this time of my life, I was introduced to crystal meth my first time. And this drug promised so many things, but it deceived me. It started out as a recreational purpose. It was just me and a couple of buddies doing it. Their name was JT and Josh, and they were co-workers of mine. So we got high, before work, during work, after work, and it just started progressing into an everyday thing. This went on for a couple of years, and just going to work and getting high and doing drugs. And I just had this moment of clarity this one day, and I just told my friends, I'm like, look, I'm trying to be this family man, I'm trying to raise my son, and be a good spouse, and I don't think we should do drugs anymore. Let's just quit. So we decided to quit that day. And I remember going to work the next day. If you guys ever felt like, when you had like a bad case of the flu virus where you can't get out of bed, you're sweating, you're shaking, that's how I was feeling. But you multiply that by 10 or 100 times, my body was just shutting down because of all the drugs that I was doing. And so I go to work the next day because I had to, make money to support my family. And I make it all the way up to my lunch break. And I get a call from my buddy Josh. And I could just tell like something was wrong in his voice when he talked to me. He said, Jordan, JP just committed suicide, man. He just hung himself in his family's garage. He hung himself with a belt on a rafter, and his mom came in and found him, hung there in his garage. And I just started crying. I fell to my knees, and I just started crying on the phone. I love this kid, man. He was 19 years old when he committed suicide. He was my best friend. So I told my boss, I'm like, look, I can't go home. I got to go home. I can't work today. He said, Jordan, I understand. Go home. So here I am. I'm walking back to my house, and I'm just crying. I'm just feeling a lot of guilt and remorse. I felt guilty because I thought, for me just saying, just quitting drugs, it pushed him over the edge or whatnot. He suffered from depression, and he took his own life. And so I go to my house, I told my wife, or I told my girlfriend at that time, and nighttime rolls around, and here I am, I'm trying to experience all these emotions that I've never experienced before in my entire life. And it got to be so much that I couldn't handle it anymore. So I go into my room, I shut the bedroom door, I opened up my closet, and I took my gun off the dresser. I loaded it, and I sat on the edge of the bed just like this. And I pulled the hammer back, and I was ready to take my life. And a miracle took place right there. Are you laughing? Okay. A miracle took place right there. In an instant, my girlfriend just came to that room at that particular moment. She opened the door, and she saw me there on the edge of the bed. She ran over to me and took the gun away from me. And the ambulance came, and I was taken away to the hospital for 3 days. And they prescribed me a whole bunch of antidepressants, Zoloft, and things like that. And they told me to check myself into a rehab. So I get into a rehab, and you would think that, this is my lowest point in my life right here, that, I need to start making the right decisions now. But it wasn't. I kept getting high and continued to get in more trouble. So I figured, if I could just leave Monterey County and go up to Redding, where my dad was at, things would be better. So I get up to Redding, and my dad tried to help me during that time. And I tried to look for work. I couldn't find work, and then before you know it, I was just surrounding myself with more negative people and committing more crimes. I was in and out of county jail up there in Redding, California. And the last time I went to court, the judge said, "Mr. Jeske, if you ever step foot in my courtroom ever again, I'm going to give you 5 years." I said, "All right." So I was released that day, and thinking that, if I could just escape Redding, move somewhere else, I could be okay, right? So I get down all the way to Sacramento. I just left everything in Redding and went down to Sacramento. And 3 months into it, I get caught in a stolen vehicle. And I get booked into the Sacramento County Jail. And there I had 9 outstanding felony warrants for my arrest, and my bail was $500,000. So I wasn't going anywhere. And I remember I fell to my knees again, and I just started crying. I lost everything. This was my lowest point in my life. My family wanted nothing to do with me. House was gone. All my possessions gone, stripped away from me. And in that jail cell, something happened that took place in my life that changed my life forever. And that's where I found my higher power. My faith saved me during that time of desperation. And so I did my term in prison. I got out of prison, and I've dedicated my life to help others just like me, those that are lost and hopeless. So what I do now is actually go into the institutions, and I implement programs in there for guys that are behind bars. A lot of the men that I work with have been incarcerated for 25, 30, 40 years. And I help them develop life skills and to give them the best possible success out here on the streets. So I work with them in prison, and then I work with them out here on the streets. I started my own company. I hire nothing but parolees and give them work opportunities so they can provide for their families. I just wanted to share, some statistics with you guys, but in a small little video. But before I do that, I just want to encourage each and every one of you. If you are growing up in a home without a father, just like me, there's people out there that would help that will pour into your life, believe it or not. People that are mentors. So look for these individuals, whether it's your teacher, a coach, your neighbor, or whoever. Look for people that will pour into your life in a positive way. Because statistically, growing up without positive mentors or even fathers in your home can increase your chances of going into the wrong direction. There are 2.4 million children in America right now that are growing up in homes without fathers. 63% of U.S. suicides come from a fatherless home. 90% of all homeless and runaway children are from a fatherless home. 71% of high school dropouts are from a fatherless home. 75% of all adolescent patients in chemical abuse centers come from a fatherless home. 70% of juveniles in state-operated institutions come from a fatherless home. Now, I listed these statistics not to scare you, but to encourage you, to look for, positive role models in your life. Because, unfortunately, these statistics are real. I fell into some of these statistics, but you guys don't have to fall into these categories. It's completely up to you right now to make the right decisions in your life. Because believe it or not, the decisions that you guys make today have the ability to change your future forever. All right? Thank you.